Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. In the previous class, we have discussed about the key controversy that arose during the first and second 5-year plan. And under this subtopic, we have discussed the controversy regarding agriculture and industry. There were some people who were of the opinion that agriculture was not given proper attention in the 5-year plans, in the first two 5-year plans, especially in the second 5-year plan. And there were another group which was of the opinion that agriculture was given proper attention, and the government has started many reforms in the agricultural sector, like land reforms, and these reforms could not become successful. So the policy was there, but the problem arose. The required agricultural growth could not be achieved because of lack of implementation. There was problem in implementation. And the second argument which is presented by the people who supported the side of industry, they were of the opinion that in India, the problem of poverty can be reduced only by giving more attention to industrial sector. Then only there will be accelerated economic growth, and its benefit will reach to all the people of the country. So this was the controversy regarding agriculture and industry. Then the second controversy was there regarding the public sector and private sector. As I told you, India adopted mixed economy, the model of mixed economy, and under this model of mixed economy, the elements of both the economies, the capitalist economy and the socialist economy, the element of both the economy was present in the Indian economy, and this became uh, one of the most important reason uh, for criticism from both the sides, because in our economy, public sector and private sector both were given important place. So what happened that people started to criticize it. All the people belonging to left ideology or people belonging to right ideology, both side of the people who supported private ownership and the people who supported government controlled economy, both side of the people started to attack the economic policy of the government, and it was the argument of the rightist ideologist that there is intervention of a state in economy, and this intervention is causing inefficiency and corruption in the system, like licensing system, then permitting system. All these were hurdles in the economic activity, and the imposition of tariffs on the import. This led to the inefficiency. So, this was the argument of the people who belong to rightist ideology. Then, the people who were supporting the leftist ideology, they were of the opinion that the government is only mm, helping the private sector to make profit, and the state is intervening only in those areas where the private sector was not prepared to go. So in this way, our mixed economy, the model of mixed economy which was adopted by our national leaders, was criticized by both the side, the leftist and the rightist. We have discussed all these things, and now today we will discuss the major outcomes of the planned economy, the first uh, three 5-year plans. What were the major outcomes of these first three 5-year plans? Okay, so we will see that uh, so many major outcomes are there. First of all, we have in the first chapter we have discussed that when India became independent, at that time India was facing three main challenges. The first challenge was the integration of the country, integration of the princely states, and eradicating the problem of that violence which arose from the partition and displacement of people. The second challenge in front of the government or in front of the country was to establish democracy in true sense. And the third challenge was this development, challenge of development. So what we see that the first challenge, it was solved in a very efficient manner. India was integrated into a single country. All the princely states were integrated with India, and everything was fine from that viewpoint. And the state reorganization of state was also done. So on that challenge was faced by the country in a successful manner. And the second challenge was also very we faced that challenge also very efficiently, because first election, general election, was done in a successful manner, and a democratically elected government was formed in India, and that was a great success for a country like India, because of its number of poor people was so much high, and not only poor but illiterate people was also so high. Still, our election commission conducted the election in a very efficient manner. But what we find that this third challenge, the challenge of economic development, that proved to be most difficult to realize, because even today we are facing that problem. Even today we have so many people who are living below poverty line. Then there is a huge gap between the rich and the poor. So the third challenge was proved to be the most difficult. And in this regard, what happened that the government has made many laws and policies in order to bring land reforms. But this effort of the government to bring land reform could not become successful, because in our country what happened that the political power remained in the hands of the land owning class. And when the land owning class were having the political power, then it is very difficult to bring uh, land reforms in a country. And also, another problem was there, like big industrialists continued to benefit and thrive while poverty did not reduce much. The industrialists were able to get benefit from the economic development, and the problem of poverty was existing there, and there was no solution to this problem. So we see that all these problems were there in spite of adopting planned economy. Still, we can say that because of this planned development, uh, we were able to achieve so many important achievements. And we can say that the foundation for the further economic development has been laid during these planned period only. So we will see the foundations. An assessment of the outcomes of this early phase of plant development must begin by acknowledging the fact that in this period, the foundation of India's future economic growth were laid. So this was the period, the first, second and third 5-year plan period were the period when the foundation of India's future economic growth was laid. If we are at present, all the foundation for the economic growth was laid during that period only. Some of the largest developmental projects in India's history were undertaken during this period only, like Bhakra Nangal, Hirakud. All these are mega dam projects, multi-purpose projects. These projects were made in order to serve the need of both the sector, the agricultural sector as well as the industrial sector. The agricultural sector will be benefited by these dams because it will provide them source of irrigation, and it also helps in the flood control. And the industrial sector benefited from these mega dams because these were power projects, because power was generated through these dams, and this power was utilized in the industries. So we can say these mega dams were one of the important foundation which was laid during this period. Then another is heavy industries. Some of the heavy industries in the public sector, like steel plants, oil refineries, manufacturing units, defense production, all were started during this period only. So not only this, then we see that infrastructure for transport and communication was improved substantially. Infrastructure like roads, railway line, and air transport, or telecommunication, all these was improved during this period. And so these are the important foundations which have been laid during this period, and these foundations were very much important for economic growth of the country. Though we find that especially these mega projects, these mega dams, which were started to be constructed during this period, they have come in for a lot of criticism. At present, people used to criticize these mega dam projects only because of these mega dam projects cause deforestation, and because of this deforestation, the environmental problem becomes very grave. And not only deforestation, but it also cause displacement of especially the tribal people. And these are the reason for which at present we criticize these mega dams projects. But these dams were really helpful in bringing economic development in the country. These were the major foundation for not only for industrial development but also for agricultural development. As Pandit Nehru has described these dams as a temple of development, because these were the dams which were benefiting not only the rural people but also the urban people, not only the agricultural sector but also the industrial sector. So we can see that these are the most important foundations which have been laid during this 5-year plan. And now we will see land reforms. So what happened that in our country there was the practice of zamindari system, and this zamindari system was based on complete inequality. And because of this zamindari system, what happened that most of the land in a village belonged to a single person, and most of the farmers in the village remained landless farmers. So in this situation, what happens that this kind of unequal distribution of land causes lesser agricultural growth. Why lesser agricultural growth is caused by unequal distribution of land? Because the zamindars uh, are having so much land that they don't pay attention to all the parts of the land. Many part of the land go barren. They don't do agricultural activity in all the land which they are owing. So many part of the land is left barren, and the farmers who are landless, they are there, they have the potential to grow the crop, but they are not having the land. So in this way, what happens that ultimately the agricultural production of the country suffers a lot. So it was identified by the government, by our national leaders, that in our country, if we want to improve the agricultural production, what is required most importantly is the land reforms. We need to reform the land pattern of our country. In our country, our government adopted four main components of land reforms. The first component was the abolition of the zamindari system. This abolition of zamindari system was proved very helpful for the agricultural growth, because it released land from the clutches of zamindars, and these zamindars have very little interest in agriculture. So in this way, land was released from the clutches of zamindar, and it also helped in another way. By removing the zamindari system, what happened that the capacity of the landlords, the political influence of the landlords also reduced. So it was a very good attempt from the on the part of the government. Then the second component of you can see it is here. The first component is the abolition of the colonial system of zamindari. Now the second component is consolidation of land. In our country, there was another problem of agriculture, and that was a small size of the land holdings. Because of a small size of the holdings, what happens that the output of the agriculture uh, reduce, because farmers are not able to use the modern technology like tractor and harvester all in their land because of the small size. So there was an attempt by the government to consolidate the land. This was also, we can say, fairly successful, but it was not very successful, because there was fear in the mind of the small farmers that by consolidation of land, the government, it was an attempt by the government to grab their land. There was this type of feeling was there. So it was not very successful. And then the third component was Land Ceiling Act. The government also passed the Land Ceiling Act, and according to this, uh, law, what was done that there was put an upper limit or ceiling to how much agricultural land a person could own. So this was Land Ceiling Act, and if any person is having more land than the ceiling which was fixed by the government, then this excess land uh, was to be taken from the that person, and it has to be distributed among the landless farmers and the small farmers. But actually this Land Ceiling Act was not uh, successfully implemented. It could not be implemented successfully because people who have excess land, they manage to evade the law. How they managed to evade the law? They started to um, they started to um, uh, many ways like बेनामी जिसे हम बेनामी कहते हैं, जैसे कि लैंड जो है वो बेनाम किसी भी के भी नाम से उसकी रजिस्ट्री करा दी गई. देन जो only on paper the land was transferred to the landless people or the small farmers, but in actual what was the condition? In actual the influential person, the person who was having excess land, was actually mm, controlling the land. So in this way, the people managed to evade the law. And there was the third component also, and this third component was this is the third component, upper limit or ceiling. Now we come to the fourth component. The fourth component is the tenant. There was a rule was made for the tenant, that the tenant who worked on someone else's land were given greater legal security against eviction. They cannot be evicted arbitrarily by the landowner, and they were given legal security by the act. But this was also could not this act also could not be implemented. And what was the reason for not implementation non-implementation of these Land Reforms Act? Actually, and the problem was this, that the in rural areas the landless people were totally illiterate. They were so poor that they cannot think of uh, organizing themselves against the big landowners or the zamindars. They were very in a very poor condition, and they were used to be exploited, and they were not aware of the new laws and rules, and they could not be mobilized, they could not be organized. So the laws were made by the government, but these laws could not be implemented effectively. And on the other hand, what we see, that the landowners were very powerful. They were powerful economically, they were powerful socially. In society, they have so much influence. And not only this, their influence was also in the political life. They were politically influential class. So the landowners were economically, socially, and politically influential. So in this way, what happened that many proposals for land reforms were either not translated into laws, they were only remained as proposal. The government was not able to make laws of those proposals, and when these proposals turned into law, then what happened, that these laws could not be implemented. They remained only on paper. So this shows that economic policy is part of actual political situation in the society. We cannot make any new policy, any new economic policy in a vacuum. Any law, any rule is a part of the actual situation which is prevailing in the society. So it is said that if we cannot change the whole scenario, we cannot change the economic situation, we cannot change the social and political situation by making laws only. If the people are not aware, if the people are not mobilized, and if people are not ready to cooperate, then no law can become effective and no law can be implemented in a proper manner. So the same problem was there with these land reform laws and acts which were made by the government. Laws were good, but they could not be implemented. So our leaders were having good wishes. They wanted to uh, increase the output of the agriculture. They wanted to uh, eliminate the inequality that was existing in the distribution of land resources. But all these desires of our national leaders could not be materialized because in our society there was a dominant social group which effectively controlled policy making and implementation. So what were the causes of the failure of land reform attempts by the government? These were the causes. Okay, so this is an important part of your chapter. Now we will come to the next segment, and that is the Green Revolution. Now, when we were discussing 5-year plans, I told you that in the year 1966, the country was to made a new 5-year plan, that was fourth 5-year plan, but because of some problems, the 5-year plan could not be made, and uh, 3 annual plans were made during this period from 66 to 69. Why this happened? Because at this time the country was facing so many crises. And what were these crises? The one of the important crises was that in this decade, in the decade of 1960, our country faced two important major wars. One with China in the year 1962 and the other with Pakistan in the year 1965. And because of war, there was loss of so many lives and property, and the country was passing through economic problem. Then we see that in the between the year 1965 and 1967, there was drought. There was failure of monsoon, and this caused very low agricultural production. And these were the problems which country was facing uh, during this period. So there arose the problem of food crisis. And India was at that time not able to fulfill the food related need of the people on its own. It was not self sufficient in food grain production. So our country has to import the food grains. We were dependent on food aid, and this food aid was coming from United States. And the United States in turn pushed India to change its economic policy. As United States was giving us food aid. So it was putting pressure on the country to change its economic policy. So the country was under huge pressure, and there was a problem of foreign exchange also. So in this situation, in this in order to get rid of this food crisis, our government adopted a new strategy for agriculture so that we can become self-sufficient in the production of food grain. So what was this new strategy? Now the government changed its policy regarding agriculture. Earlier, what the government did, that the government gave more support to the areas and farmers that were lagging behind. Okay, like the regions which were very poor, like Bihar, Odisha, uh, and West Bengal, all these poor regions were given more importance. They were given more support by the government. And in these poor regions, especially the poor farmers were the focus of the government. And the government was of the view that by focusing on the backward regions and by focusing on the poor farmers, it will be able to solve the problem. It will be able to increase the agricultural productivity. But what happened, that we were not able to increase our agricultural output. We have to import the food grains. So now the government has changed its policy. Now it was decided by the government that it should put more resources into those areas which already had irrigation and those farmers who were already well off. So this was the change in the strategy of the government regarding agriculture. Now the focus of the government was those regions which are having good irrigation facilities. And in these regions, the focus was the rich farmers, the big farmers. Because the sole aim of the government was to achieve self-sufficiency in the production of food grain. So this this was changed, and now the government gave the argument that those who already had the capacity could help increase production rapidly in the short run, because we were in extreme need of increasing our agricultural output. And in order to achieve this aim, what was required, that the capable the capable farmers should be given focus by the government. So the government offered high yielding variety of seeds. This is high yielding variety of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and better irrigation facilities at highly subsidized prices. So in these regions which have already irrigation facilities and which were already doing well in agricultural production, these regions were offered high yielding variety of seeds. The seeds which have high yielding, fertilizers which will increase the productivity of the soil, fertility of the soil, pesticides which will kill the pests and insect which are the major reason of the crop failure, and better irrigation facilities were provided by the government. All these were done at highly subsidized prices. So the government also gave a guarantee to buy the produce of the farmers at a given price. Not only this, all these facilities were given, and along with these facilities, it was also guaranteed by the government that it will purchase the produce of the farmers at a given price at the time of which is called MSP, maximum selling price. At the time of sowing, the government announced the MSP, and then when the crop is ready, the government purchases the produce from the farmer. So this was the beginning of Green Revolution. So this Green Revolution was revolution means sudden change. Any sudden change can be termed as revolution. So this Green Revolution is related to the sudden increase in the agricultural production with the use of high yielding variety of seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, and better irrigation at highly subsidized prices. So this is all for today, and now we will discuss other things in the next class.